if you don't have your strategy right, you're not intentional about how your business or your company is looking at your AI strategy longer term, then what tools you purchase may or may not be the right decision.
Welcome to the / podcast, where we lean into the future of IT by inviting fellow thought leaders, innovators, and problem solvers to slash through its complexity. I'm your host, James Carman, and today we're talking to Jason Swafford. Jason Swafford's a technology executive, entrepreneur, and founder of Drag6, a strategy advisory firm focused on AI, technology leadership, and organizational effectiveness. Over the past 25 years, he has led global engineering organizations through the internet, agile, mobile, cloud, and AI revolutions. After co-founding the AI-native lending platform 0 to 10, Jason now advises executives and business owners on how to build organizations that execute, innovate, and thrive in an era of rapid technological change. Welcome to the podcast, Jason.
Thanks, James. It's nice to be here. Finally.
Yeah, great to have you. I should add, and I also consider him a friend. Jason's a great guy. We worked together at Cengage Learning for quite some time together, so learned a lot of good stuff from Jason. So consider him a mentor.
That was a good time. I enjoyed that that time, that stint. It went a lot longer than I planned, right? I was like, I'm going to go into this ed tech thing for about 5 years, and 12 years later, I was like, that was a good run.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. Well, there was a lot of stuff going on, a lot of good things going on over there. So,
yeah, it's a great, it's education is a great place to spend your time.
Yeah, we had a great time there. It's funny. I was reading the bio, and it's like internet, agile, mobile, cloud, AI. Like, you've been through it all, man.
I hit all the key words, right? I mean, I'm
It's fun. It's how did you do that at only 27 years old? That is so weird how you've done that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. All right. So you're now doing strategy consulting in an AI age. Like, how have you exited out of your lending platform? Is that still a thing, and you're doing this other thing as well?
It's definitely still a thing. So yeah, I'll back up a little bit and kind of take you through what I was doing. So a couple of years ago, when I left Cengage, I started that company. I actually started a slightly different company, and it's morphed and pivoted multiple times over the last few years. And if you think about it, like 3 years ago, AI started becoming really a force in our lives, for at least some of us, blowing our minds every couple of weeks with new things coming out. But I started that company. I've been involved in commercial lending as an investor for years, and I've worked with brokers and lenders for years and watched them struggle with trying to support small business owners in the borrowing process. So I went through that. I had this idea. I had it for a decade. I started to execute on it, and I pivoted a few times through it. It's still alive. And you know how startups are. We're still grinding. But it's slow moving for the most part from that perspective.
So what's the elevator pitch for 0 to 10 as a lending platform? What makes it distinct from others?
So it's really focused on the small business borrower. So small businesses don't speak lender, and lenders generally don't speak borrower. So if you've ever been through the Small Business Administration and the SBA lending process, there's a lot of jargon, there's a lot of documentation, there's a lot of financial information that banks need in order to lend. And that the government needs in order to lend. And those things aren't necessarily easy for small business owners to get together. And the secret with small business owners, I've been one. I've owned gyms and some other small businesses over the years, is we don't necessarily have our financials together like a corporation does. We don't have a team of financial people and analysts and stuff on our team to really help us pull those things together. So oftentimes we don't know what a pro forma is, and we don't know, what it means. We don't know what EBITDA means. You'll be surprised how many small business owners don't know what these things are. And helping the small business owners put their lending package together so they're more lendable is really the idea. So we've used AI to essentially build the lending package for the small business owners so that they can take it to lenders. And we've also created a mechanism for us to be able to push it to those lenders. So think about brokering it out to multiple lenders to see who's interested. So that's the basic premise.
Well, I think you're could be right place, right time. I would imagine with AI, there's going to be a lot of new businesses starting up because people, some of those barriers to entry that used to be there, like, oh my goodness, it's going to take me, 8 months of hardcore, just heads down coding to put this thing together. That's no longer the case anymore. So you're going to be busy, I would
Yeah,
guess.
I mean, just touching a little bit more. The reality is also that, and we might talk about this a little bit because of the impacts and influence of AI. Um, people coming out of college today, it's a little bit different than it was, in the mid '90s when I came out of college. The job market is a little bit tighter, and AI is definitely impacting those entry level jobs a little bit more than they are the jobs like that we have where we've been in the industry for a long time. We have a lot of critical mass behind us. We have that advantage.
Hmm.
But I look back at myself, I didn't know any. I mean, I got out of college. I was like, I knew how to program a little bit on an AS400 because I had to do it in order to get my statistics analyzed for my psych major. That's it. That's all I knew. I didn't know anything else. And I was taught, on the job training and all of those things. I got taught how to do a lot of these things. So my hypothesis, or our hypothesis, is you're absolutely right. There's going to be a lot of small businesses starting up, and they're going to need help, and they're going to need access to tools like this to help them get their information together and get the funding they need to get started.
Yeah. See, that's the difference between you and me, Jason. When I got out of college, I knew everything. Yeah, see, I had everything figured out. I knew exactly what to do in every situation. I knew everything. Nobody could tell me anything. The thing I don't understand is how, with all of this experience, how have I forgotten all of that stuff? I don't I
Right.
don't understand it. It's weird. Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah, it happens.
yeah. I guess I don't know. That happens to the best of us. I guess as you get older, your memory fails. Maybe that's part of it. I don't
Yeah, I
know.
think that's what it is. I
That's
think
got to
that's
be
what
it.
it is.
That's got to be it. Because I know absolutely I knew everything when I got out of college.
Yeah, my dad's told me several times he's forgotten more than I've ever known. And so yeah, I guess that works.
Yeah. All right. So you're now doing kind of some strategy consulting work with companies in this AI era. Um, what I'm seeing is as we coach folks and we advise in this era, it feels like when you tell people what you give them advice on what needs to be done, it feels surprisingly simple, but I don't know. It's like when you give them advice, they're like, nah, that can't be it, right? Like some of the stuff is like back to the basics, but it feels like everybody's just wanting. I got to get the tools. I got to get the tools. Got to buy all the tools now. Is that your experience right now? Are we past that yet, or is that still what you're
I
seeing?
definitely don't think we're past it. That's the conversation I'm having literally on a daily basis. That's the easy answer, right? I mean, we're inundated with information about tools. The tools seem to be the decision to make. Right. I mean, I don't know. I go on YouTube, go on any platform right now. You'll see people presenting and demonstrating tools. I may get 100 emails a week from people that have tool companies that want me to buy into their tools.
Hmm.
And there's nothing wrong with the tools. I mean, I think all the tools are applicable in some way. So at some point, you're going to leverage them. I think the the place we get lost is the tools we're going to have evolution of tools at a rapid pace. And if you don't have your strategy right, and you don't know, you're not intentional about how your business or your company is looking at your AI strategy longer term, then what tools you purchase may or may not be the right decision. And I think that's the key piece is bringing it up, actually bringing it up a couple levels so that you can make good decisions around your tooling. I think what you notice when you hear people talking about, well, I tried this, I tried that, or you see industry reports where they say the extreme numbers. I've heard 95% of AI projects fail. I've heard that a few times. I've actually seen some data on it. I'm not sure that's actually true. I think there's some nuance in that
Mm.
conversation, but I think that we're failing because we're not sure how these gambles or these bets we're making are related back to our business in general, our overarching business strategy. So I think that's why we see a lot of, turmoil around that.
Yeah, it's kind of fascinating that you don't really see other like domains or whatever that people will just go buy a bunch of tools and then say, okay, now what can I build with that? It's like I need to build a thing. I have a goal in mind. What tools help me to get there? It's usually the reverse in most other contexts. Like you don't just buy a bunch of hammers and nail guns and stuff and say, okay, now what can I build? And you say, oh, I want to build a house. What tools do I need to go do that? So it's fascinating how us technology people are. We do love our tools. That failure rate is really interesting. I just did a keynote at Cincy AI Week, and I talked about it. So Stanford released their enterprise AI playbook back in April, and they talked a lot about the failure and those sort of things. And like it was what they studied successful implementations of AI and kind of getting through that J curve. And 61% of all of those had an initial failure. So I think the key is don't just, if you're going to fail, that's okay. Like this is all
Yeah, I
changing
agree.
around us. Don't throw your hands in the air, learn from it, figure out what's working, what's not, and take another run at it, right? If at first you don't succeed type of thing, right? I think
I
that's the
think
key.
that's the key thing. The
Yeah.
the failure rate is a bit of it's kind of a news bite in my opinion because the J curve is real. We're just as an industry, we're in the bottom of the curve in a lot of ways. We're failing a lot
Yeah.
because we're trying to figure it out. And part of the conversation, I literally put a presentation together for someone a couple days ago, and I'm not going to bore you with a presentation, but the point was we are in this R&D fast speed R&D cycle and we don't even realize it. And we think that we're falling behind if we're failing right now because it feels like everybody's making progress in this AI space and we're afraid we're falling behind. And the reality is, no, we're all trying to figure out how all of this is going to work. The problem that I have with it is I don't have a problem with any of the R&D or any of the trial and error and failures and successes. I think the way it's couched or the way it's related back to the business and the business strategy is the problem.
Hmm.
As long as you're doing it intentionally and in context of your business and what you're trying to achieve and what your goals are and how you want to be seen in your industry from an AI forward leaning or not, what your positioning is for AI, that all matters to the decisions you make and how free you make it for your employees to take risks and try things and fail and learn.
So, and I totally agree, man. And so now, if you have your strategy, let's say you do start in the right way, and you have that strategy, how do you coach folks and to actually kind of use AI to start tackling those things and to start using AI as getting yourself towards that strategy that you have to fill in the gaps that maybe you've always had you couldn't overcome a hurdle or things weren't possible before but now they are with it. How do you coach folks through that and how to think through those things?
Where this conversation needs to start is back at the business model, to be honest. And the folks that I've been working with lately, the conversation has really gone from everybody wants to optimize to get more efficient. That's where we're all thinking, how can I get more throughput? How can I get more work done? And they're thinking, can AI accomplish that for me in some way? Can I give my team access to Claude and miraculously they'll be more efficient and effective at what they're doing? So
Hmm.
that's where everybody's at right now. But if you take it up a couple notches, and this is where I've been advising mostly is let's take it up. Let's look at what AI is doing to your business model in general. Is the introduction or the disruption of AI going to impact your business? And how is it going to impact your business? Is it going to impact your business in that there's now opportunities you didn't have before that you can take advantage of? Or is it potentially going to impact your business more negatively in that um, it's impacting the moat you've created or what you thought was that moat around your business. And maybe your advantage for years has been that your technology is a decade ahead of everyone else's and that your distribution strategy is far superior to someone else's. And now AI has reduced the distance between you and the competition,
Hmm.
or maybe AI has made it possible for someone like me that has an idea in the commercial lending space to erode part of your market because I can jump in and in 6 months build an application that may be able to compete at the small and chip away at the edges. So everyone has to be intentional about this and realize what the possible impacts are, how they then want to think about that from their organization and what kind of actions they want to take off it. So I start there. That's the initial conversation.
Hmm.
And what that drives to is business. It literally is a business conversation. There's really no AI to it other than me introducing what could happen with AI.
Hmm.
And then as we move down into the organization, now that we've decided, yes, there's opportunities, maybe there's an opportunity for us to move into another segment or into another, vertical, for example. But what is that opportunity and how would we approach that now that we've got lower cost resources to be able to do some of those things, or we can scale our team a little bit more effectively?
And is there anything around like, established organizations? They've got their processes and procedures. They've kind of done all
Yeah.
that stuff, right?
Yep.
So they have a little bit of momentum or inertia, even right, with their business. Whereas a startup, they're a lot more nimble. So that inertia, there's two things about inertia. It's hard to get it started, is one thing, but it's also hard to change its direction if you want to. So that established company, are you advising them like lean into some of the things that may be moats and strengthen those more? Because when it comes to your systems, it's gonna be hard for you to like completely pivot and be nimble like a startup could, because they don't have that inertia already built. The startup doesn't in a direction that's maybe in a different direction than where you want to go. How are you advising folks kind of through
Yeah.
this to think about it?
Even before AI, I think that, I mean, AI exaggerates everything right now,
Hmm.
right? So it
Hmm.
really does. It like amplifies everything. So if you asked me 5 years ago, I probably would have the same answer. The startup is more nimble. They have less to lose than the big players. So if you're a multi-billion-dollar publishing company that builds ed tech solutions, you're not very nimble just by sheer size and reach.
Hmm.
Doesn't But you've got so many other advantages. If you're a startup and you have zero revenue, you have zero customers, and you have this great idea, man, you can pivot all over the place and find places where you can nibble at their heels. But the speed at which a small company like a startup today can have impacts on a larger company's revenue is much more significant now. So it changes the financial considerations. In the past, a big company may say, "I don't care about the ankle biters. They're fine. They're there. We're going to keep our eyes on them. We might learn from them. They'll be our R&D. We'll watch what they're doing. If there's anything interesting, we'll do something about it." Now they're actually a little bit more of a threat. They can actually make their way into the market a little bit more effectively. But I mean, getting back to your point, is there things you can do when you've got flywheels moving and you've got so much inertia that it's hard to pivot in that space? The answer is yes, there is things for you to do, but you gotta break it down into smaller chunks and say,
Hmm.
where can you be more effective? The one place that I think larger companies can actually take advantage of AI, and I think it's probably a little bit contrarian to what most people are thinking, is I do think that where we've tried to constrain the edges of the business units from being quote unquote innovative and building their own things, let's say engineering on the fringes of the company rather than allowing IT to handle those pieces of it. I think there's an opportunity with the introduction of AI to start to allow that to happen, but with some appropriate guardrails. And I think this is where the pivot from our way of thinking about IT should be to start to open up the ability for your marketing department or your product department or your sales department to innovate a little bit more and to allow them to run a little bit with with solutions they may be coming up with themselves that actually allow them to do better business and to allow them to be more nimble like a startup.
Yeah.
There's opportunities to do that.
Yeah. I've heard folks talk about that kind of innovate at the edge within your organization kind of stuff, and protect that core, like your core business functions and stuff. And this topic comes up a lot, and I don't know if we don't want to turn it into a whole shadow IT, shadow AI conversation, but you hit on something that's interesting. I think we've thought about shadow IT and shadow AI for the wrong way for a long time. I think that's actually can be a superpower. In some sense, like it wasn't the same problem that it is today. In some sense, it was, somebody might have spent a weekend coding something up, but you could only get so far in the past, right? You can only make, you're doing ankle biting at that point, right? But now,
Hmm.
maybe the salesperson, they're biting at the kneecap, right? They can get a lot farther in a weekend with AI than they used to. So I do think there's some ways we need to be leaning into that shadow AI, and don't take it out of the shadows. Make it, this is part of our business, as you said.
I
This is an
agree.
innovative approach. We can use, you are innovating for us. You're helping us. Just bring all that stuff out in the open and help foster that. That's a learning culture. I think we're going to need that. So I don't know. It's just been an interesting kind of phenomenon that this whole shadow thing does keep coming up in conversations, and our knee jerk is you got to shut it down. Because that's what we've always done, right? But I think
Yeah.
we're wrong. I think we're wrong.
Well, we don't have to belabor the point, but I think it's a pretty valid discussion to be having, because I think this is one of the places where we have to change the way we think about things from an IT organizational perspective. And let's be honest about why shadow anything happens on the edges. It's because they're trying to get around friction of some sort. They need something.
Hmm.
And, you know, how has the conversation always gone? We've been doing this a long time. The conversation always sounds something like this. It's like the business units need something. There's only so much finite capacity and budget for us to support the businesses in some way.
Hmm.
I mean, there's not endless amounts of money or capacity to do things. So we need to prioritize what work we can do for these folks on the edges. Some things are just not going to get done. They get lower priority. They get deprioritized. And that's just the reality of it. That still feels like friction to the business units. And then internally, from an IT perspective, we spend a lot of time in our organizations going, man, if I had more capacity, if I just had 2 more developers, if I had 5 more developers, if I had a QA team, we have these conversations with ourselves like, man, if we just had a little bit more capacity, we could get so much more done. And so we've got this dissonance between these two things. They want more, we want more, finite budget. Now we have this scenario where we can allow them to be the front lines a little bit. Start the rapid prototyping. Get early validation from your teams, even if it's internal. It doesn't have to be a product that goes product facing externally. Get internal verification. Start using it, but let's have some guardrails around it, or some rules around it that says once you get a certain amount of critical mass in your organization, we have to start having conversations about this. And from an IT organization perspective, I think this is an opportunity for us to start building our agentic workflow force that sits around this enablement that we're doing for the business. And the business is enabled, and we allow them to leverage agentic capabilities or skills that we allow them to have access to, so that they can do that. But we have some checks and balances in place to make sure they're not doing things that they shouldn't be doing. Let's check to make sure they're not introducing security vulnerabilities. Let's check to make sure they're not, publishing personal information that they shouldn't be, or exposing it in ways that they shouldn't be doing that. Let's put some things around that for them, give them tools, and let them run a little bit, see what happens. And that's way more scalable now than it was when we had to have people doing that. Because we can have AI help us do that a little bit more now than in the past, where we would have architects or SAs or somebody running around making sure people weren't breaking things and causing problems. Right?
Yeah, I think there's two things there in what you were talking about. One is I think AI is kind of almost a Rosetta Stone. In the past, the businesses, they would have to verbalize and tell us, like, this is what I want, and they're trying to articulate it to us. And there's a paradigm mismatch in how we talk about things, and all of those different things. There's a language barrier there. But now they can actually build something like, this is what I'm trying to build. Like, this is this is the best I could get to, and this is what I'm looking at. And so we can see an actual product, something that's, it may be rough, but oh, I see where you're headed with that. So I think it'll be a good communication tool. The business can, do some high fidelity mock-ups, or even a working prototype and give us a sense of, oh, I see where you're headed now. Great. And like you said, they can play around with, oh, I like this button over here versus here. They can do some of that early work early on and get through some of that stuff. And then we can help them make it a real product. The other thing is, and I think this is the other big conversation that I see going on right now is governance. And you talked about the guardrails, and let's make sure they don't do the security. I think, and I don't know that we thought about governance that way in the past. I know some highly regulated organizations don't treat governance as they don't think of it as an enabler. But what you're talking about is build that up front, right? Build those governance tools that make the right thing to do, the easy thing to do, that sort of stuff. So yeah, I think that's a huge conversation right now. And how do we right size that governance so that it can actually speed folks up and not be a bunch of checkboxes and ServiceNow tickets and blah blah blah. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, and that's what I'm testing right now. So again, I want to be transparent. Like, we're in early days of these things as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're trial and erroring things, but the current hypothesis around governance and helping enable IT to help enable the business to do these things, because they know their business better than we're ever going to know it. They know
Mm-hmm.
what they're trying to do better than we do.
Mm-hmm.
And so if they're in Replit, or if they're in N8N, or if they're doing things trying to automate their business processes and they can do it, and then we can learn from that, or we can give them tools. Like, one client I'm working with is, let's give them a repo that they can work in. Let's give them an agent that spins up a repo for them, so they don't even have to know how to do it. They just ask, it spins it up for them. And now they've got their Cloud Code environment, if we want to give them that, or whatever environment that we're allowing them to use.
Mm-hmm.
And now they've got a few skills in there, and they've got some other agents that we're going to hit that ecosystem for them. So the governance has now become enablement. To your point, you said it a minute ago, the governance has become enablement. Yes, we've still got guardrails around it. And then we got to be intentional about the handoff decision points. So if someone's building an app for them and a couple other people on their team, and they've got a small pod, and they're using it because they can hit an MCP and pull some data out of Salesforce, and they can do something to massage it that makes it really customized to what they're doing. And if that person that built it leaves and goes somewhere else the next day and it falls apart, no one uses it again, who cares, right? I mean,
Right.
It is what it is. Let
Sure.
them do that stuff.
Yeah.
If that thing becomes bigger, and all of a sudden not just this pod, but 3 other pods want to use it, or maybe they start looking at, maybe there's an opportunity for us to scale this for the rest of the company to be able to do something with. This is those important points where IT has to get involved. What does this mean? Who's going to support this thing? Because it's not going to be the salesperson that created it. They're not going to support 5 different organizations. They were comfortable building it for the couple of people on their team and making sure things work and fixing a bug here and there. And it was working for them, and it's fine. We can allow things like that to happen. But once it starts to scale, that hardening, that operationalizing of it needs to happen. And there needs to be an intentional mechanism in the organization for doing that. I believe, again, it's a hypothesis still, but I believe what's going to happen is the business is actually going to understand what we've been trying to tell them for years.
Yeah.
They're going to understand it better because they're going to feel it. They're going to be like, we've been saying, look, we can build this for you, but do you really want us to maintain this for the next 10 years? I mean, do you really? I mean, this is a cost. We're not going to be able to do anything else because we're going to be maintaining this thing for you. You really want that? And they're like, yes, I want it. I don't have to maintain it.
Yeah.
Build it.
Okay.
And we do it. But now they'll feel a little bit of that pain. They're like, is this really worth maintaining? Do I really need this? Or so there'll be a little bit of that. We'll feel each other's pain a little bit more, I think, and might actually bring us together a little bit.
Yeah, no, I love that idea. I think that's a real possibility. The areas where some of this stuff might start to break down. I love what you said about, give them the repo, give them the tools to build these things and all that. Where things start to get a little crazy is if, let's say, that salesperson builds something for their pod of 3 or 4 people, and they're using it and they're fine and they're happy. There's a couple of things that can go wrong. They may not be. They're not caring for the thing like an IT team would. So, for instance, if a CVE comes out, right? Something there is now a danger. There's a risk to the organization. As long as we make these things easy to do and they're spun up and they see the light of day and they're not done under someone's desk, we can help lean in and say, hey, you've got a CB, it's lit up, let's help you fix that or whatever. Or, hey, you need to, upgrade your library, whatever the case may be. So that's one thing. The other thing, and this came up in the conference I was at this week, was for bigger organizations, these one salesperson builds something and then, you've got 20 different salespeople building that same exact thing. So that idea of keeping these things above board and communicated and people are talking about it and sharing freely, we got to solve that problem so that salesperson one built something and then 2 weeks later salesperson two just decides, oh, I'm going to build the same exact thing. But they were like, wait a minute, hold on, salesperson one over here said they were doing something around this, let me call them, let me talk to them. So that visibility of what's being done and what's happening in the organization, I think that's key. And that's why, again, another reason why we need to lean into this shadow stuff and let's put a light on these things and celebrate these innovations. So, I don't know. Those were two things where I saw where things could kind of fall apart.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that it's a balance. So this comes up and again, this is one of those things that us IT folks are always optimizing. Let's optimize. We don't want redundancy. We want to control cost, control reach, control risk, control exposure. All of those things we're trying to make, and it's all valid. There's nothing, invalid about it. This balance of if 5 salespeople have built roughly the same thing, what is actually the impact of that to the business? And if we have the right tools in place that are going to make sure that they're going to scan it to make sure that there's no security risks, they're going to scan to make sure that we've got things, that are meeting the conditions and criteria that the business has in place. And we're able to do that across a broader swath of these one-off solutions. Maybe some of that isn't as big of a risk as it has been in the past. And we can allow some of that to happen and then consolidate over time. But your point is well taken. In general, building 10 things that do the same thing is probably not a great idea.
Yeah, I think it's,
right?
And we're, I'm a software engineer. So, we've always get things beat into our head, the DRY principle, do not repeat yourself kind of thing, right?
Yeah,
If you do
exactly.
something 2 times, go and make a library for it or whatever. And I think I've learned over time because, or when I knew everything coming out of college, I would immediately want to fix that DRY situation and that I was violating the DRY principle. But as I forgot about that over time, I then just settled for, no, I'm being tongue in cheek here, but like what I learned was sometimes that DRY principle is okay. There's some duplication of effort, some duplication is fine, right? We saw it at Cengage where we would try to create like a standard component libraries for, let's say, assessments. Like, oh, you want to do a multiple choice? Well, 5 different people would have 5 different opinions about how multiple choice questions should work. So we had to put a bunch of like configurations into the one Uber model and like, no, just have 5 different flavors because it's really not that complex of a thing anyway, right? It's a multiple choice question. Anyway, that principle is there. But there are some times where you've built the 5 lions and they're all great. But if you were able to combine all 5 of those lions, you got Voltron. You know what I mean? You got something super
absolutely.
powerful.
100%. Totally agree with you.
I had to get my, some sort of a reference in there. And it was a very ham-handed one. I apologize for it, but I thought
it's good. It worked. It worked.
Voltron. I don't know. All right. I think we're ready for our next segment of the show, which is Ship It or Skip It.
Ship or skip, everybody, we got to tell us if you ship or skip.
A lot of companies are spinning up a new role in their C-suite, and you're seeing the CAIO, Chief AI Officer, having a C-suite position. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think this is a good idea, or what do you think about this?
If you ask me this question on different days of the week, I may have different opinions about it, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
But I think in general, it's a good idea because I think organizations need somebody focused on this. And what my role has been a lot is I am the person focusing so that the CTO and the CEO and the other C-suite folks don't have to focus on AI to figure out what AI is going to do in their organization. Generally, though, what I think is interesting about the position is where it should sit in the organization. What kind of role is this?
Mhm.
Is this a resource role? Is this a technology role? Does this eventually just roll into technology? Which, as a technologist, it feels like AI is a technology. But I think the jury's still out on whether or not AI will ultimately be something worth having a organizational structure. It feels like it's going to be like saying we would have a C level person for our electricity usage, or our, do we need our chief electricity officer or something along those lines. I think eventually we get to a point where we don't actually need this because it's going to permeate everything within the organization. But in general, you need a strategy, and you need to know how AI is going to work within your organization, and you need focus. And I will say, talking to a bank right now, advising a bank right now. We haven't gotten into actually doing work for them right now. But when I first started talking to them, they said, we got to get in front of this AI thing. We don't know exactly what we need to do. There's all this compliance issues we need to deal with. So we put together a committee, and they meet once a quarter to talk about AI. And I
Mhm.
said, you're talking about AI once a quarter? That's probably the problem. The problem is you're only gathering a few people from a few different departments together every 3 months to talk about what you should do for AI. And I just don't think realistically that's that's gonna work for you. So you need someone that's gonna to take that lead in your organization. So I think that CAIO role is honestly going to be a short-lived thing, maybe a couple years, and it's going to be worked in to the organization a little bit differently. I do think that there's an interesting debate to make about whether or not, as we get into the agentic workforce, and I don't know if we want to go down that path, that there is this resource, almost like a human resource function, that is your agentic workforce function. And there may be a role, a controversial CAIO role that is more like an HR, lead, but we don't have to necessarily go down that path.
I've heard that, and I think we're what's the phrase? Is it anthropomorphizing? Is that the right?
Yes,
Yeah,
I have a
yeah.
tendency to do that. Yeah, I
But I
can't help
think that
myself.
the industry is. It's funny. They're trying to anthropomorphize these agents, and well, they're now human like almost. Okay, they might do some things. I don't know. I'm very skeptical of that whole idea. Like, you need a chief AI resource officer or human AI HIR or whatever. But I'm with you on the chief AI officer role. I do think I think you have a couple of options. So somebody needs to learn it, as you said, and somebody needs to own this. And but you got to get your head wrapped around it. So you could either, the CTOs and the CIOs in these organizations, they're already busy, right?
I
Like,
know,
they already have a
exactly.
full job that they're doing. So I
Hmm.
guess you could do one of two things. You could pick off some of the responsibilities of your CIO, CTO, whomever you want to have own this, and delegate that to other folks and peel them away and give them time to go, wrap their head around this AI thing. Or you could bring in an expert from the outside and delegate to them and say, okay, you figure it out. I guess it depends on the CIO or CTO. Do they feel comfortable advocating that responsibility? Some people are just, they're geeks and they want to learn it themselves, so they do the other route.
Yeah.
But I'm with you. I think it. I love the chief electricity officer. I was thinking like chief Microsoft Office officer or something like that. But like, yeah,
Right.
I love that. That's funny. Chief water officer. Um,
Yeah.
I think it is going to be like that. I think over time, as you said, people will be more comfortable. It'll be part of our company. It'll just be part of our DNA, and a dedicated role will not be necessary. You may have, an AI strategist or an AI engineer, but I don't know that you're going to need like a chief AI officer, like at the C-suite level. Anyway, I'm with you. I agree with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's where it's ending, gonna gonna go or progress to. I don't know how quickly, but that's where it'll go.
Yeah. So, and one we've talked about a lot, vibe coding. And it's so funny. You hear different, versions of what is vibe coding, but I guess I'll frame the question. What I consider to be vibe coding would be, folks who don't have experience with any sort of software engineering skills in the past whatsoever, and they're using Claude, and they're kind of, YOLO in it. They're one shotting these things, and they're just letting Claude or whatever, Codex, any of these tools, build software for them and just, let's just ship it, right? That's what I'm talking about. What's your take on that? Are you a pro vibe coding? You anti? What's your take?
I'm generally pro vibe coding, I guess. I don't like the term vibe coding, to be honest, but I'm pro people having the opportunity to get their ideas out of their head and be able to build. As someone that's never been the best coder, but I've had ideas. I've always had to rely on these fascinatingly skilled people that can actually take ideas and turn them into things.
Mm-hmm.
And my whole life through, I've had this frustration oftentimes of I know solid architecture, I know how to build solid software, but I'm not the virtuoso that's going to sit at the keyboard and write slick code. It's just not my skill set. But when you introduce these tools to someone who's got the ideas and has the ability to then turn them into something, I think that is really compelling. And I think that's going to skyrocket us at the end of the day into some great places where there's going to be some unbelievable products and ideas that get innovated over the next, 5-10 years. What I don't like about it is the sloppiness of it, the sloppiness of just build something, think it's scalable, think it's secure, think it's a solution that can go to market. And if you're not listening to your technology partners that actually understand what good software looks like and behaves like, you're going to get yourself into a difficult situation, especially if you start trying to push those things out into customers or to large scale user groups. The potential for problems is significant. That's why we already talked about it a little bit, but that's why you need to have, again, guardrails is not my favorite term, but the guardrails around how you're going to allow people to vibe code within your organization. It can't just be a free for all. You got to have some constraints around it.
Yeah, I think the consensus seems, my hypothesis, my thinking currently about where we're going to kind of land. And again, I say this every time. It feels like that I don't want to sound gatekeepy, right, or elitist or anything like that. But I think what organizations will learn is that the vibe coding, the uninitiated using these tools to build things is great as that research tool. I think if we lean in and we use this properly on the edge, allow folks to be able to express themselves and build these, semi workable solutions. They're not enterprise grade yet, but they're able to build these things and express themselves. I think that's a great R&D tool. I think it's great for innovation. I think people can help, explain this is what I need. But the mistake would be if your production, your actual software production pipeline and your software production capacity in your company is completely comprised of folks who haven't run things in production before. That's where I think people are going to start running into those barriers, and they're going to learn some lessons the hard way, because the allure of I can hire someone who I can pay someone $50,000 or whatever, and they just sling stuff together with Claude Code. That's tough to compete with. It's how cheap it could be. I think those hard lessons are going to have to be learned, but I think that's where we'll settle. Is I really hope we do settle in on leaning into the innovation, leaning into the expressiveness of these tools, then help people communicate better with one another. But then once it comes to these are the things that I'm going to charge people money for, right? Or really supporting my core business, that the software that's built for those type of things, you're going to need more rigor around that. And I hope that that's where we land with it.
Yeah, I'll give you an anecdote from a couple experiences. So I am actually not as worried about the larger companies. The larger companies that already have established productionized IT teams that do this stuff and have rigor, I'm a lot less worried about them. I think they need to figure out how to innovate on the edges, and they need to figure out how to use their business units that are willing to put their capacity toward it as their R&D.
Yep.
But they're going to follow the same rules that they've always followed, where they R&D, then they productize, then they optimize, and then they build efficiencies into the systems, just like they've always done. So I think that system's still going to work really well for them. What I worry about is this, like the mid-sized, the smaller companies that don't realize that rigor is important, and they hire, to your point, or someone builds a application on a weekend and then they put it out in front of their team or in front of their clients, and then real problems happen, and they didn't realize that it was still a prototype that they think is productionized, that hasn't been optimized or scaled or secured in any way. And so they haven't followed the rigor that these companies that you and I have worked with and in for the last, couple decades already have that rigor. Now we're just looking at ways to make it easier for us to bring new opportunities or bets into the system.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think the savvy companies are wise enough to not go down that path you're talking about. Now, there are going to be those exceptional cases that do attempt this, but those will be the examples, the counterexamples of why it doesn't work, and the other people are
Right.
like, "Oh, glad we didn't do that." But
Yep.
when it comes to the less savvy organizations, less experienced organizations, I mean, a lot of our businesses rescue projects. I mean, hey, we'll have some stuff to do. I saw a tweet, if they're still called tweets, I don't know, but I saw a tweet the other day about a guy. He was surmising that it's going to be, years in the future, there's going to be this new thing. It's like AI rescue engineer or something like that. So all this AI slop, I don't like that term, right? AI slop, but there's some sloppy code. But anyway, all this AI slop that's being built for years and years, 5, 6, 7 years in the future, they're going to need all those engineers to come back and rescue all this stuff. Maybe some truth to that. I always think about like Demolition Man when this comes up. I think about, when we had to like thaw out Sylvester Stallone and so he could fight Simon Phoenix, because nobody else knew how to do it because we are our joy way. I don't know. I just love that. I had to do another
I
movie
get it.
reference.
Yeah. That is one reference I understand.
You know the three seashells.
Yeah, I know.
You get it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it for Ship It or Skip It. Let's move on to the next segment of the show. I don't know if we fully prepared you for the lightning round.
It's time for the lightning round. Rapid fire, don't slow down. Answer quick and make it count. In this game, there's no way out. It's time for the lightning round.
This is the meat of the show. This is what everybody tunes in for. Most folks, from my understanding, what we hear from our audience is they kind of just fast forward through all the technical mumbo jumbo stuff to get to this, because this
to
is
get to this. Okay.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
the
yeah.
important piece of the show. Okay.
We don't even edit.
I'll
the
try
first
not to
part.
disappoint.
Yeah, if we screw up during the first, we don't even edit it because nobody's listening anyway, right? So we just kind of let that go straight out of the the system and just let it go. But once it gets to this part, this is where things matter. The answers, there are right and wrong answers to these questions. They will be graded. We have an algorithm that we run this through. It takes a couple of months. It used to only be about 12 days, but token usage it's expensive now, so we kind of have to pace ourselves. It's a couple of months now.
Using Fable. Deep research.
Twice as much as of token usage now with Fable. But yeah, we'll get back to you on what your score was. I don't know the right answers, and I don't even know how the algorithm works. They tell me it's world class and all that stuff. But I say all this because a lot of people come into this and they think, oh, lightning round, these are just silly questions. That's not what we're talking about here. This is the real deal. These are high stakes questions. I want you to mentally prepare yourself. Are you prepared?
Sure.
Okay. All right. Well, I feel like I've done my best to
feel like this is making or breaking it.
Yeah.
I'm a little nervous.
Number one question, again, high stakes. Do you snore?
Yes, I do snore. Unfortunately, I don't believe I do, but my watch tells me I do, and my wife definitely tells me I do. So yeah.
I get smacked in the middle of the night every now and then, and I'm like, and I look over, my wife's like, I think I know she did it. I'm not smacking myself, but she like goes back to sleep. I'm like, how do you smack a person in the face and go back?
Yeah, I get a kick to the ribs once in a while I'm sleeping to wake up, turn over, roll over.
Yeah. Name a primate besides monkeys and apes.
Does a bonobo count? I don't think it's technically a chimp. It might be considered a chimpanzee, but I don't think it is.
Like I said, I don't know the right answers to these things.
They walk upright. They walk more upright.
A
They almost walk
bonobo.
like humans.
Really?
Yeah,
A
bonobo.
bonobo. I'm going to have to look into that. Are you a sourdough or a wheat kind of a guy?
Ooh, um, that's an interesting one.
Or maybe a
I
neither.
think,
You're a fitness guy, so maybe you're like no
yeah, I
carbs.
mean, I think generally the taste of good sourdough I really enjoy, but I probably eat wheat more than I eat sourdough. So I don't, you take that for what it's worth.
Yeah, I feel like anything like it's like a PR problem for the foods with the word sour in them. Other than like Sour Patch Kids, like sour cream, and you know what I mean? Like I feel like it's like,
Yeah, but
is it
some of the
spoiled?
best breads are sourdough. I don't even know how they make sourdough bread. And I know you can get some crappy sourdough at the grocery store, but I've had some really good homemade sourdoughs that are unbelievable.
Yeah,
And they're supposed to be better for you from what
that's
I've
what.
understood. Like
That's what I
there's
hear.
some
Like
enzymes or something in them. I don't know.
gut health, something or I
Yeah,
don't know.
exactly.
How many cups of coffee do you drink per day, roughly?
6 or 7, maybe
Six.
10. A lot.
I like it. Okay.
I have a fancy coffee maker. I've been drinking coffee since we've been sitting here, but I get up around 5 o'clock in the morning and it's game on until about 11, and then I
Nice.
try to cut it off.
Are you a black coffee guy, or are you putting stuff in it?
Yeah.
Black.
So my first coffee of the day has a scoop of collagen in it, a chocolate
Mm,
collagen, but after that, it's all
just
black
just
coffee.
black. Yeah. I was buying that Black Rifle coffee, and I like it, but I read the other day that there's like it's not one of the more clean ones. I know I got to find a different coffee.
Yeah.
Everything's going to kill
I
you these
drink
days.
bulletproof. Bulletproof's coffee seems to be relatively clean from mold.
Heard
I
about
can
that.
tell.
Yeah, yeah,
I can tell.
yeah.
I get congested.
Yeah, yeah. Have you ever seen a kangaroo in person?
Yes. And I believe it was at the Toledo Zoo, and it was a long time ago, but that would be it. I never saw one. Oh, you know what? I think I saw a kangaroo at the Detroit Zoo, if I'm not mistaken.
But not
Yeah. I
like
think I did.
the what was it, like Tom
No,
and
I've never
Jerry, where
been.
the thing fell off the truck and then you like just saw it
No,
roaming around the neighborhood, nothing
no.
like
I've
that.
never been to Australia, so I've never seen one in the wild, only in captivity.
Well, you mentioned Toledo. This kind of tees up this question. If you were given an all expenses paid trip to Cleveland, Ohio, would you take it?
That is a great question. All expenses. I guess I would.
Yeah,
Sure.
we'll give you
I
50
mean, why
bucks.
not?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I would go maybe if there's a basketball game going on or
I
something. I
mean, they got
mean,
the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame's up there, right? Isn't
yeah,
it?
it's
Yeah.
true. I guess.
So
Yeah.
Cleveland rocks. I don't. Whatever. All right. So this is one we've been asking people on the forward slash for quite some time. It's kind of a little bit of a social experiment. Do you like the smell of gasoline?
Mm, no,
No.
I do
Okay.
not. No.
Not. All right. That's fair. Which is weird. And now for a long time, we had everybody saying yes. They were saying yes, yes, yes. And typically the answer was something along the lines of, yes, I do, because it reminds me of, going on hunting trips with my grandpa. We'd stop and
Yeah.
fill up the truck, blah, 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 whatever. Like it was always an associative thing, but I don't think anybody was like huffing gas or anything like that.
Yeah. I think I have recency bias. Probably. I don't like the smell when I'm pumping gas and then I have gas on my hands and it
Mm.
drives me crazy and I smell it the whole time I'm driving. So I think that's probably my recency bias around not liking the smell of gasoline.
And it's sometimes it's like bad. Like how does that work? It's not like I'm like squirting my hands and washing them off with the
Yeah.
gas when I'm done. Like how does it get all over the handle under normal usage of these tools? How does that happen?
Yeah, all I can think is that when people are pumping gas, when it keeps kicking off and it doesn't want to pump any further because it's got a mechanism that says you've got enough gas in your tank,
Yeah,
and they
yeah.
keep clonking it until it overflows, and then it gets all over the thing, and then they just stick it back in the in
Mm.
the in the slot, and then when you pick it up, you've got gas all over your hands. I have to take a page from my dad's book at some point in my life and get gloves in my car that I keep in my trunk. I just maybe when I turn like 65, I'll do that eventually. But that's my dad's trick. He's
My
got his
daughter has this
gloves.
little like silicone thing that she's got, and it like it goes in the little holder for the cap inside the lid for your yeah, and she puts it in there and she puts that on. I don't know.
Yeah, I know.
All right. What temperature do you like to keep your thermostat at?
That's a great question. At night, I like it to be cold. So I like it around 65 at
Nice.
night. And then during the day, I like right now it's pushing 80 outside right now here. So it's probably around 72 degrees inside. So in the winter, I keep it about 68 during the day, let it get down to 65 at night. And then in the summer, I keep it around 62, 63 during the day. And then I like it cold when I'm sleeping. So I crank it down, freeze everybody out of the house.
Yeah. I like sleep when it's cold too. On a scale of 1 to Mariah Carey, where would you rate your karaoke skills?
Oh my God. Like 1.
Like
I'm
1?
horrible.
Okay.
You know what? I'll give you a little quick anecdote. They made me, we did a charity event at Cengage, and the Gale team, I was part of the charity event. And the event was of the 3 leaders in the Farmington Hills office. It was me, Paul Gazzolo, and I can't remember, Liz, God, I'm blanking on Liz's last name right now. Of course, my team paid the most money possible to get me to have to sing karaoke. I had to sing Right Said Fred, I'm Sexy and I Know It. And they videotaped this, and I know this video is floating around. And so hopefully no one posts that video in conclusions, but it was terrible. I did, and I had to do it at Dave and Buster's, which was even more
out in public. So there were people outside.
Yeah, so it was great.
Oh,
yeah, it was fantastic.
Yeah, those things are humbling. We had a dunking booth for one of our all team events or whatever. We do a summit every year where we bring everybody in town, and it was like, you feel like you know, as a leader, you try to do a good job and you try to be nice to people and do the right thing most of the time. But man, I'll tell you what, when they get that opportunity to dunk you and they're going to come after you. You know, what I mean? They're not like, oh, we'll take it easy on James
for a good cause.
No, oh yeah, that was the motivation. Sure,
you're right.
Yeah, and I felt like almost like it was personal at some point. I think the guy that ran up and just pushed the button, even though he missed the stupid thing. Yeah, that feels a little personal.
Yeah, that's personal for sure.
Something's behind that.
I would agree.
And I assume I probably did do something wrong, but you know, whatever. Last question. Do you Instagram your food?
No. I'm not an Instagram my food kind of guy. I will say that when I travel, especially for business, and I'm going to a nice dinner, my wife's a foodie. She loves food stuff. I never Instagram it, but I always take pictures of all the food that I'm eating so that I can share it with her. Sometimes it makes her mad because she's jealous, but most of the time it's like, look at this ridiculously awesome meal I'm having at this, fancy steakhouse. Doesn't it look nice? Because I'm impressed. But yeah, that's about it. I'll take pictures of it, but I don't post. I'm not a big post things on social media. I mean, it might just be my age. It's just not my jam.
I'm more of a share with my text chat people pictures that I think are funny. I'm that kind of a guy. But yeah, and you don't share those photos as like a nanny boo boo. It's really just, I think this looks cool. But you're off in another city and she's taking care of the kids and whatever and all the things back home, and it doesn't, it's like, oh, great for you that you get this like volcano of onion rings or whatever the case may be. But,
yeah, right.
Yeah. I had one that I sent home that it wasn't really fabulous looking, but there was a place in San Francisco. I don't even remember the name of the place, but they served a pizza and then they would just dump salad on top. And I thought, okay, I have to try this. This just sounds crazy. It was really good.
Yeah.
It was awesome. Anyway. Okay. Well, that does it for the lightning round. Anything coming up you got going on? Like anything, your new company that you guys have? Are you going to be at a conference or anything? Or do you have a one-man show on Broadway? Anything like that coming up that you'd like to share with the audience?
Nothing specific right now. We're working on some things. So maybe in, a couple months when we get things rolling, we'll come back and share some stuff. But nothing specific. We're just in the trenches working with clients and trying to build a business, right? I mean, that's what we're doing right now.
And Drag 6, how can they learn more about Drag 6? Where can they find more information?
Really easy. You can go to drag6.com Yeah, you can look me up on LinkedIn. I think my LinkedIn profile is J Swaff, SWAF. So you can find me there, link to us there, and you can reach out to me either, DM me on, is that what they call it on LinkedIn? Message me on LinkedIn, or come to our website, or you can reach out to me at jason@drag6.com. And it's drag6.com.
Okay.
But yeah, easy enough.
Yeah,
Come
that's
check
pretty
out what
easy.
we're doing.
Yeah, that's very cool. We will definitely make sure that we, when we post this episode, we'll make sure on LinkedIn that we link out to you so folks can come check you out and see what Drag 6 is all about. I'm excited for Drag 6 for you, man. You always do good stuff, and I'm looking forward to see what
Yeah, we're
you get
really
into.
excited too. It's an exciting time. I mean, honestly, been through a lot of stuff in this industry in the last 25 years, and this is, on par, if not more than all of them. So I'm glad I'm getting a chance to do it before I croak, I guess, at some point.
Well, you're a healthy guy. You got a ways to go.
I know, but man, it is an exciting time. So it's going to be an interesting ride.
Well, you're not drinking that mold coffee, so you got
No,
many years.
exactly. I'm trying to stay healthy. Trust me. I'm trying to keep things together.
Thanks. I'm really, again, looking forward to Drag 6. Happy to have you on the show today. It's been a great conversation, and as always, I enjoy talking with you. But thanks for coming on the show today.
Yeah, thank you. It's been a blast.
All right. Well, that wraps up this episode. If you'd like to get in touch with us here at the /, drop us a line at the/@callibrity.com. See you next time. The / podcast is created by Callibrity. The / team is director and producer Ryan Wilson, editing by Steve Baradelli, marketing support by Taylor Blessing, and I'm your host, James Carman. Thanks for listening.